We are well into our way in August. And maybe you started off the summertime thinking, wow, this is going to be great. I'm going to have so much time with my kids. They're enrolled in camp or classes. And now, about 2 months in, you're probably feeling like, they're starting to get on my nerves. They're getting a little bored. When is school going to start again? Well, if you've got a school-age child or even a preschool kid, today we are talking about language fun with Amelia Bedelia. And if we haven't met before, my name is Jessica Bauag, and I am the owner and speech language pathologist at Fluence Children's Therapy, a pediatric speech therapy clinic here in Tacoma, Washington. And I'm excited for you to join me today. Hopefully you'll get some fun tips so you don't end up pulling your hair out with your kids in these final weeks of summer. And it'll be a chance for you to enjoy your time with them as well as to learn some new things in a fun way. So if you are not familiar with Amelia Bedelia, she's been around for a while. When I was younger, I remember the old school books where she was getting into trouble, not quite understanding what people were saying. Now they've come out with some new books where she is a child. They look like this. This is one of the examples of the books that we use here in our clinic. This one's called Amelia Bedelia Joins the Club, but she's just a little girl. In the old books, she's a grown adult, so they've taken a little different spin on it. But what I love about these books is that it gives you, as the parent, teacher, friend, babysitter, whatever the case is, a chance to work on something that we call figurative language in a way that's fun and natural and doesn't really feel like teaching per se. So what is figurative language, first and foremost? Figurative language is language that uses figures of speech as substitutes for the literal meaning of words and phrases. So an example would be, it's raining cats and dogs. That's a pretty common one. Not too many people say it in natural conversation, but it does come up from time to time. And some of our kiddos, especially those on the autism spectrum or with other difficulties with language learning, may take that literally, or they may not understand. They may just get confused. They may know, okay, I know that cats and dogs don't fall out of the sky, but what does that actually mean? So Amelia Bedelia offers a fun way to learn about figurative language and the difference between literal language and figurative language, because she often gets into trouble when she doesn't understand what other people are saying in regards to the figurative language that they're using. She takes things very literally. So it's kind of fun, and it gives you as the parent or the caregiver an opportunity to talk with your child about what that phrase actually means. And then you can think, are there any other phrases that we've heard that were maybe confusing or that maybe you've seen on TV or in movies? So before I get too ahead of myself, let me give you some additional examples. So that first example was like, it's raining cats and dogs. That's one example of figurative language. Another one specifically from a book with Amelia Bedelia, the older books, is Draw the Drapes. So Amelia Bedelia does a drawing of the drapes. Someone tells her, because she's a housekeeper, someone tells her, Amelia, could you draw the drapes? And so she literally starts pulling out a pencil and some crayons and draws drapes. But really the figurative meaning is to either open or close the drapes. So that's an example. Another one is someone tells her to measure 2 cups of rice. And again, she's a housekeeper, so she does some cooking and whatnot around the house. So Amelia fills 2 cups of rice, and then she stacks them on top of each other. And then she takes out a ruler or a measuring tape and she measures them. But really, measuring 2 cups of rice just means to grab a cup, scoop out a rice, grab another one, scoop out some rice. So again, she's taking all of these things literally, and you can see that it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's a lot of fun to talk with your kids about these things. And then another example is someone tells her to dress the chicken. So what do you expect? Amelia, not quite understanding figurative language and taking things very literally. She gets a raw chicken and she puts it in a little uniform, and when really the figurative meaning is to get rid of all of the parts of the chicken that won't be cooked and to clean it in preparation for cooking. Still, at the end of every book, Amelia never gets fired, especially when the people that she's working with taste her cooking and her lemon meringue pie. Yum. So that's some examples from, again, the Amelia Bedelia books. In this book in particular, again, this is the newer versions of them. There's things like, some examples are, you know, her mom stops and says, "Rain, rain, go away, come again another day." And Amelia thinks, "Huh, not another day, come again another year." So again, the examples of figurative language in these newer books aren't as explicit or clear, which is why I tend to like the older versions of them, but they are some examples that you can use as well. Another example would be her mom. So again, it's when it's raining, her mom says, "It's going to rain buckets tonight." And so what does she think? That there's literal buckets coming down from the sky. So she got really worried. And again, one of them, another example from this book in particular, Amelia Bedelia Joins the Club, is that at supper, she's trying to decide which club to belong to at school. So at dinner time, Amelia told her parents that she was caught between the two clubs. And her dad said, "Wow, you are in a club sandwich." And so she literally thinks that she's in the middle of a sandwich. So again, the examples in these newer ones are okay, but I like the version, the older version better. And if you're really curious about how to continue to encourage figurative language with your child in terms of understanding, and you may be thinking, why is this important and why is this related to speech and language? Well, as kids get older, again, especially kids on the autism spectrum or who have other social pragmatic needs and need additional support and specific teaching, when other people are talking to them or making jokes or whatnot, if they're not picking up on that hidden, that underlying meaning of the figurative language, they, one, will be confused and might think it's literal, or two, not be able to participate and enjoy the jokes and the comments that their friends or their social group are making. So it's important for our kids to learn about figurative language in a social setting. Also, when it comes to reading comprehension, especially from around the 4th grade and up, the kids will in school be encountering a lot more figurative language. So at the younger early ages, when they're first starting to learn to read, a lot of the questions around comprehension will be related to details found specifically within the book. So who was involved, where were they, you know, details that they can look back in the book or listen to the story again and answer the questions. But around the 4th grade, and definitely as they get older, there will be more critical thinking skills and more figurative language skills that are expected of them. So it's really important that our kids learn at some point, you know, ideally at an early age with simple books like this, what figurative language means. And again, some of our kiddos pick it up really quickly, just kind of naturally. Others need to be specifically taught what the phrases mean, or at the very least, a way to ask for clarification or ask for more understanding if they're not understanding it. So some other additional resources besides our beloved Amelia Bedelia that you can look into is also a favorite resource is YouTube. You can just type in figurative language on YouTube, and there are tons of videos about different examples from movies, you know, kid-friendly videos, things like that. Figurative language also helps kids develop their imagination and learn additional problem solving. And there are lots of YouTube videos about that. And you can also find on YouTube a great narration of one of the Amelia Bedelia books. So if you're really into watching videos with your kiddo, or just as another way to expand upon that, you can look up on YouTube and get into that with your child. Another extension of, again, if you're kind of figuring, okay, what am I going to do with my kid? Whether it's summertime when you're watching this or another time of the year and you're like, I really want to do more with this Amelia Bedelia, you can also cook with your kids, which is a fun way to develop some language and just some bonding time. You'll be surprised how much you can teach your child through a simple cooking activity. And like I mentioned, these are when Amelia Bedelia is a kid, but the older versions, when she's an adult, is she is a housekeeper. She cooks really well. So it's a perfect transition into a cooking activity with your child. And there are a ton of recipes online. But in terms of language skills, when it comes to cooking activities, one, they have to learn how to follow directions. So if your child is a little younger, say 3, 4, 5, they have to learn how to follow directions in order to make the thing that you're cooking with them. If they're a little older, say 7, 8, 9 and up, they can start reading the recipe and interpreting what that means. So they'll need to really understand different verbs that they may not be hearing in daily language, like chop and mince and dice. They may not hear that often, so they'll have to learn what those verbs mean, and then they'll have to really start to apply their math skills when it comes to measurements and whatnot, as well as figuring out the sequence of the recipe, especially when it comes to baking, and how following it in that order is really so important. So some simple recipes, of course, like I said, you can look up a ton online. Food Network's got a great one for sweet potato chocolate chip mini muffins. That sounds good. I haven't tried it, but I love chocolate, and sweet potatoes make it sound like it's healthy. And then on another website called Spruce Eats, there's a parfait or a smoothie. And in the comments below for today's video, I will include the link to our blog where all of these resources are linked, so you can just click away and read more about how using Amelia Bedelia can help with your child's figurative language and why that skill is so important for their language development and their social development. So I hope you got some fun tips today. I hope you go and try them out. Let me know if you do. If you've read any Amelia Bedelia books before, go ahead and drop a comment below. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Take care.